And welcome to Shine a Light Live. My name is Stephanie, a product marketing manager in the MX marketing team and proud member of the Black professionals at Samsung ERG. Black History Month is a momentous occasion to recognise and celebrate the invaluable contributions of the African diaspora. For us here at Samsung, it's an opportunity to recognise the individual experiences of our Black colleagues and celebrate the achievements that helped shape Samsung to be the brand it is today. Today is the first day of celebrations this month, and to kick it off, we're very excited to host our first Shine a Light episode called Unlocking Your Power of Difference. There's a lot of power we can all derive from the intersections of our identities. While the world often asks us to be one or the other or check a box, we all contain multitudes. And when we can embrace these multitudes and nuances of our identity, there's an opportunity to really tap into what's special about our unique point of view and bring that into every room we walk into. So, to join me in these discussions today, we have three incredible members of Black professionals at Samsung to share their stories. But before we do that, we would like to hear your thoughts. So if you have any questions, a Slido link will be added to the Teams chat. All questions are anonymous to ensure an open and comfortable environment to ask us anything. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our panel here to introduce themselves. DT, I'll start with you first.
Thank you very much, and wow, what an intro, Steph. So for those who don't know me, I'm David Thompson. Everybody should know me as DT, and I am the co-founder of Black Professionals, but also the head of training for the MX division.
Cool, everybody, I'm Melissa, everyone calls me Mel. I work in the MX team and I'm the senior omnichannel marketing manager on the Vodafone account.
Hi everyone, my name is Kadesh. I am the smartphone specialist product manager here at SE UK. And you know what, I'm a part of the Black Professionals team as well. And just an exciting time.
Definitely.
Happy Black History Month, everyone.
Well, happy Black
History.
Thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, today's conversation is all about unlocking your power of difference. All of us up to this stage are a part of the African diaspora, and it's estimated that there are over 1.2 billion people of African descent that live all around the world. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and your cultural backgrounds? Mel, I'll start with you first.
Cool. So in terms of a little bit about myself, first and foremost, I'm a mum to a beautiful 4-year-old girl. In terms of my background and my influence, it's from a Caribbean background. My dad is from Antigua. It's famous for having a beach for every single day of the year, so if you haven't been, I strongly advise you to visit. And with my mum's side of the family, that's from St. Lucia. St. Lucia is renowned for having the world's only dry-free volcano in an area called Soufrière. Have an amazing spa there, so again, go and check that out. And I would say in terms of my heritage, that was very instrumental in terms of my upbringing, down to the food that we eat on a daily basis, particularly on Sundays, the Sunday tradition of having rice and peas and chicken and having all the family around. Music, I would say a very immersive culture that I had growing up, and certainly that's in my household today that I have with my family. Yeah.
That's lovely. I need to come over for Sunday lunch. These days it sounds awesome. Lovely, thank you for sharing that. DT, right?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm obviously born and raised in the UK, but my actual cultural background is my mum is Jamaican. So all of my family resonate, and it sounds like we're all from the Caribbean as well on the panel here. So growing up when I was younger, I had a lot of different influences from my cousins to my uncles who would be based in Jamaica, so we'll go over there to see them as family. Very similar to you in terms of weekends. I think food on a Sunday is something that brings the family together. But for me, one thing that always used to resonate with me is every Saturday morning, my mum will wake up and the first thing she's doing, she's putting on her favourite record, which happens to be a reggae record as well. So every single morning I would sit down and listen to it alongside with her, and we'll do some cleaning or doing some stuff around the house. But for me, if you've never been to the Caribbean or been to Jamaica itself, it's probably one of the most beautiful places in the world. The whole of the Caribbean is, if I'll be completely honest, and one that I always want to make sure that even when my kids, when they're growing up, they get to learn and breathe and understand what the culture's like.
Sounds wonderful. What's your Saturday morning track? Do you play anything?
So my mum used to play a lot of gospel
Nice.
themselves. Now for me, because I'm a house and garage boy, it's all about house and garage. So I play that every morning, or am a piano, which I'm really deeply into at the moment.
Excellent. Sounds wonderful. And Cads, tell us about you.
Well, I was born in Jamaica and then came over here at a relatively young age. But in my household, it was things like watching the cricket and watching Brian Lara in the West Indies versus England and other countries
Playing dominoes as well.
Playing dominoes. Playing dominoes
forget
and
that.
food is something that definitely brings the family together.
Yeah.
Every Christmas we get the dominoes out after we have our Christmas meal, and literally we just put that 6 on the table and that's it. But yeah, fundamentally I grew up in a very disciplined Caribbean household. Again, things like 2 meats on a Sunday with rice and peas was kind of our thing. Getting up on a Saturday morning and going to the market to go and buy fresh foods and ingredients was kind of also another thing as well. And going to Jamaica pretty much every year just to see cousins, brothers and sisters amongst other people was my thing. Definitely for me, I'm a massive advocate for Jamaica and also obviously the UK. But I would definitely say it's one of the great wonders of the world. So you go there and get yourself a patty and coca bread or some jerk chicken if you want it as well.
I love that. Very different to all of you. I'm the only African here. So, but I have visited Jamaica and I can attest to the amazing food, the amazing vibes, music, and people. Absolutely love it. So yeah, sounds very wholesome. Thank you guys for sharing.
I'd like to say we're one of the same.
Yes,
We are,
yeah, we are one family.
Yes,
So
of
yeah,
course.
very, very, very true. So I'm going to move on to my next question. How do you think your cultural background, your heritage and upbringing shaped your outlook of the world growing up? A number of you, mentioned that you were born outside of the UK, so it's quite interesting to understand. Do you remember what you wanted to be or do when you were growing up? So I know that we had previously had a conversation about this. DT, I'll start with you.
I knew you was going there, but no, it's very interesting because when I gave my answer to you earlier, I also thought about other things and it came back to me as well. So actually, to answer the last part of your question, then I'll answer the first part.
Yeah.
So the last part is I actually wanted to become an architect. I was really deep into architecture, being a football fan and being born in West London. I used to travel around the London quite a lot and actually just to go and visit different buildings. And then I would come back home and mentally have those buildings in my mind and draw them out. And I did really good in art and design, where I actually built a brand new stadium for Arsenal Football Club because I'm a big fan. So those are some of the things that really I wanted to aspire to. And I think the creative side is pretty much where I am now with working in the training team, especially we have a content development team as well, which I used to be a part of, and now I head up the training team. But the first part of your question you asked is around what in terms of backgrounds and culture that made you who you are now. And I think I'm looking back on it, I think it is the work that my mum did. So I've come from a single parent household, and I had my mum where she would work 3 jobs a day. So she would go and work in one place, pick the kids up, so myself and my sister, because my brother is a lot older than us, and then go do another job for an afternoon, come back, cook dinner, and then she'll go and clean somewhere at the same time. So I actually used to go and help her, and I was only between the ages of about 6 and 11 at the time, where she would want me to go with her, and I'll go with her and help her out. And it was only like a 10-minute walk down the road. But actually to see somebody that was so strong, looking after 3 children, to have 3 different jobs, to still do the pick up and drop off, still do the cooking, and go to another job in the evening as well is for me, it's all about that hard work. And actually she really instilled that in me. Whereas it was difficult because I didn't have a father figure per se. I had to learn around working hard to aspire to where you want to be. And I think for me, that's where I definitely got that hard work and culture from.
Yeah, that's very instrumental to kind of how you currently live now,
Yeah,
seeing your mother's
definitely.
example. I'll move on to Mel. You mentioned earlier that you're a mother. Do you resonate with any of what DT is talking about there?
I do. So I would say for me, education, there was a huge emphasis placed on it from as young as I can remember. My dad worked nights throughout his whole career to ensure that there was always somebody at home when my brother and I came home from school. So for me, he would pick us up from school. I remember having to sit there the sun would be setting and he'd still be talking to us about the importance of going to school, learning your lesson, and basically what's your goal, like what do you want to be when you grow up? And every single day he'd ask that question. So it was just something that was just drilled into me, that you kind of have to work hard to basically achieve to have the future that you want. My brother and I were the first generation in our family to go to university, so in that sense, you know, you always want to, I suppose, fulfill your parents' dream. So we fulfilled that wish and that goal for them in terms of that standard and achieving that education. And then, you know, it was like they've done their bit, so the rest is up to us to go on and, you know, and achieve it and work hard. I would say that it's something that my husband and I feel quite strongly in terms of our daughter as well, you know, kind of giving her that support that she needs to excel. She's just started school, so very, very early stages of her education experience. But yeah, it's something that we definitely feel quite strongly about, just striving to achieve continually and constantly knocking at those doors to get to where you want to. I wanted to be a journalist growing up. People say I'm nosy, don't know why they say that. But yeah, I like finding out about people. I'm interested in hearing their stories, so I would constantly ask loads of questions. I would, you know, sit down and write. For me, I found, you know, just watching the news, it was intriguing about people's lives, and yeah, I would say that's definitely what I wanted to be. I did give it a go, and it unfortunately didn't work out for me because I didn't like that intrusive side of it. I think there's, you know, quite a fine line between it being a journalistic investigation or actually you're kind of uprooting people's lives. So that side of it didn't kind of sit with me. But I still feel that the skill set and the training that I had, my background of like PR and media, it's definitely supported where I've got to today in my career to date.
Sounds amazing. And it's kind of like more of a relationship management sort of role. So you guys picked some of that up and applying it to your current role, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Cads, what about you? What did you want to be when you were a kid?
Growing up, I actually wanted to be a pilot. So couldn't tell you the reason why, fundamentally, but I wanted to be a pilot. My mum and dad always taught me it was about English, maths and science. English, maths and science. Every single day, excel in English, maths and science. You get that right, you get a passport, you get a driving license, then the world is your oyster. So with that being said, I picked those things up. Amongst other things, I learned photography, got A-levels in photography, and excelled in other areas, electronic servicing and computer technology and other things which I studied. Was literally, growing up it was very disciplined. So you got home from school, you had some water, you had a snack, homework, then extra work. I went to Saturday school. Me and my little sister used to go every single Saturday morning. So we learned economics, IT, geography, black history as well. That was every Saturday, so education was a must. Amongst other things, when kids were playing outside, for example, my dad would take me to work with him. So I learned plumbing, decorating, literally I could wallpaper, I could do electrical work. So all of things which at the time I was like, come on dad, like really? I'm 14 years old. But yeah, I'd go with him and help him with the projects. He was self-employed with projects that he was on. But then only later on in life I'd realised that he had taught me hard work, discipline, getting up really early in the morning, pushing yourself to your limits to learn, and also physical limits as well, to ensure that you know where you can really take yourself. Because one thing I realised is that once you've taken yourself to your physical limits and mental limits, when you take a time back and you, when you revive yourself, you actually come back stronger and better. So with that being said, that's been applicable to all walks and shapes of my life. From what I do in my day-to-day, or when I started in my role about 3.5 years ago, to what I do today in comparison, it's a night and day difference. I've got so much more responsibilities, with it, even down to a simple thing of, say, doing a press up. If I could start it off for doing 1, I can now definitely go and do 200, because that's it. Make yourself better, become a better version of yourself. And then also mirroring kind of what I saw DT. Coming over from Jamaica, my mum left a really flourishing career in Jamaica. And my dad in Jamaica had an amazing career in journalism, politician, amongst other things as well, radio host. But my mum came over and she said she wanted to reset her life here in the UK, and she was working multiple jobs. So with that being seen, it's not necessarily what your parents will tell you, it's also what you see. So for me, I've seen that hard work and dedication and working numerous jobs and acquiring a home. So with that being installed into me, whilst keeping us all as a tight unit, it kind of trickled down into how I see my life and for my family and loved ones around. So they have definitely that hard work and determination.
Absolutely.
It's what literally should work in the day, work in the evening, right? And made sure that we was all good at the same time.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I see some running themes here. Like, we're all sort of had sort of creative futures in our minds, but actually our parents instilled like work ethic and discipline that I'm supposing allows you to flourish in your day to day. So it's quite interesting to see that those themes come out in all your upbringings, which is interesting.
It definitely guided me. For example, I went and got a gliding scholarship and a PPL, private pilot's license. So where I'd found this is what I wanted to do, even though she may not necessarily have had enough time to invest in because of the extra work. When I found something, and my mum said, look, I used to be in the Air Cadets when I was in Jamaica, and she spent a small amount of time in the UK, so I went and done it. So I learned how to shoot a rifle, fly a plane, gliders, etc. So put me down that right kind of avenue and path. Unfortunately for me, I didn't have 20/20 vision, so I couldn't become a fighter pilot that I wanted to become. And at the time, they hadn't tested laser eye surgery. But what has actually happened is where I adjusted my career in terms of technology, where I always had a passion for. Miraculously, I ended up at Samsung in a role, which is pretty cool. So,
It's not bad. It's not bad going, guys.
Not at all.
Amazing. I'm going to move on and talk about your careers to date. Like I said, you've sort of all kind of entered the sort of creative side, or rather a creative sector. I'm quite interested to know, because you're all at different stages of your careers, what have your experiences been like navigating the corporate world? I'll start with you, Mel.
I would say it hasn't been a straight road to get to where I've got to. I think with anything you choose to do in your career, there will always be obstacles. And I think in other organisations I've worked in, it's been quite a corporate world. And when it is a corporate world, it sometimes presents challenges for people having different opinions, different perspectives, different ways of working to you. And at times trying to challenge people on those opinions and perspectives. I will be quite honest, it has been difficult. But I will say on a positive note, working in environments where you have managers who champion your cause, champion your belief, ensure that your name is being spoken in rooms where you're not in, that definitely helps with, amplifying your name around the business, your capabilities. And I think having that belief in you and you receiving that praise, it definitely, I suppose, supports in raising your profile and raising your self-confidence in kind of what you do. I would say working at Samsung, I have a great manager. She is very supportive of what I do within my role. She's very supportive of what's going on in my personal life, because if there is stuff going on in your personal life, it's going to impact your day job, right? And I think that that's a very fundamental fact that anybody who is in a management responsibility needs to consider in their day job. Yep. So I would say that, yeah, she's been very, very supportive, very, very helpful, and somebody who champions my day job and my interests and my personal beliefs. So doing something like this, today, she was very supportive of me, participating in that, and I think that really helps.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I think it's super important, and especially what you mentioned about having people saying your name in rooms or you're not present. Yeah. It's so important to have those sponsors within the business and people who can, like you say, champion you, because sometimes it could be a case where you're often not thought about or forgotten, but it's great that when people witness the incredible work that you're doing, that your name is being spread because of the business, which is really good to hear. Yeah. Kent, I'll move on to you.
Yeah.
What's the corporate life been like for you?
It definitely hasn't been a straight road. What I will say is, and I'll use DT as an example, representation matters. So I used to work on the DT's team. We was in the same team together, and we've both gone from we've excelled in our job roles. So having somebody like him working as a head of training, for example, and at one point in time, he actually wanted to work in product management. Coincidentally, I work in product management now. So having that representation helps navigate me through all of the noise. It is a challenge sometimes because of, and I will say this, because I am a black man, right? I will be open and honest. Sometimes things are not understood in terms of, it could be down to a messaging toolkit, it could be down to different things, could be an ad shoot, it could be positioning of a device within a certain area within London, for example. Is it the most logical? Are we ensuring that we are communicating with the whole of the UK from different cultures? It could be Sikh as an example, and in other cultures. So it is a small challenge, but then what I've learned as growing older, becoming more of a man, I would say, is that you learn to stand firm in your own beliefs whilst also respecting everybody else's, to ensure that the business has a wider understanding of why or how we can improve on what we do. But for me, again, it's been good. I've got a good support system in terms of my work colleagues, in terms of line manager, Dan Benjamin and Paul Scott. They've been very good in terms of supporting me in other areas, whilst also seeing representation in the highest levels and supporting the highest levels from the likes when Conor Pearce was in the business, supporting us as a Black professionals team, and seeing people like David Thompson amongst other people, Ryan Forbes amongst other people, really get to the top of their roles, and they're really well. So with that being said, it's helped navigate. It's been a nice beacon of light to go through the noise to achieve where I am today, and what comes next will be special, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about representation and, you know, working your way through the ranks, DT, I'll come to you. How do you believe Black colleagues can achieve upward mobility in corporate organisations? Now, obviously, you are, I guess, the most senior person here. So, I mean, do you have a perspective on that currently?
I do, and before I answer that question, Kaz, thank you very much for that. It was very nice.
50
for you
later.
for you to say that. Look, I mean, I think within the role that we do at Samsung, it's really important to support each other. Whether you are Black as a Black professional or you're not, is all about support. And actually, the culture that we have in Samsung is all around collaboration, because we work with different types of parts of the business. I think it's really important for colleagues that come into the business to understand that there is an opportunity for you to grow. And actually, if you don't believe you have the answer to a question, there is no bad question or no silly question. Just ask the question, because people will be able to support you with your growth at the same time. Be open and honest, I would always say. I think you gave the example, Mel, on how great your manager is, and actually having leaders in the business are actually supportive are really helpful. I'm very lucky and blessed. Over the years, I've been at Samsung for just over 10 years, 11 years now, 11 years now. And within that time, I've had some fantastic leaders within the business, two of which I definitely want to call out, one being Bora and another one being Anika, are absolutely amazing leaders that we have within our department. And previous to that, Connor, and now we obviously James Kitto looking after the team, and they are super supportive and looking at things that we can do differently. I think the culture's changed over the years, and I think changed for the better for us. So before COVID and lockdown, there was no ERGs. Now we're getting the support and help of having not just Black professionals, but we've also got True Ability as ERGs. We have women at Samsung, which are super powerful ERGs we have, and obviously Black professionals. It's all around having that representation, because that is so important. I look at my daughters every single day, and I look around and see what representation they have. Actually, those representations lie in myself, my wife, their grandparents as well, to look at that and say, well, what can we aspire to? And so anybody that's coming into the business, look around and see those roles or those areas or those people that you really want to find, that you want to have some mentoring with, and actually have that open and honest conversation, because people are there to talk to, and you'll find that actually you aspire to move up and up in the business.
With that being said, I'm sorry to chime in here. So it's not necessary, yes, we may see some of our Black colleagues, and we are opening up to you and say, look, come and reach out to us, but it's not just them.
No,
it's
not at all.
anyone, completely, to go through our journey. And one thing that I've learned growing older, mentorship is a key thing to be able to navigate up through to the actual ranks. So please do reach out to us in any way, shape or form. If you want to understand training, understand budgets, because we deal with a lot of them as well, from a product positioning or anything in general, please reach out to us, because one thing about the Black professionals, and definitely this panel, including yourself, Steph, is that we've gone through different experiences, and I think we'll be able to help each other. That's the one thing that we don't want to do, is just seem separate. we do want to work with True Ability, we do want to work with women at Samsung as well, because they are definitely a powerful movement. For sure. We all just want to be respected and help each other grow. And fundamentally, or as a prerequisite, the actual business is going to thrive, get the best talent in, and you know what, take things from heights to heights.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I have benefited so much from everybody who's on this panel, just coming up to you asking those quote unquote silly questions, but you're always open and honest with your answers, which is amazing. In the spirit of collaboration, we are going across the pond to our brothers and sisters over in America. So we partnered with our colleagues in Samsung Electronics America and asked them the same question. And this is what they had to say.
Hi everyone, my name is Alfonso Smith and I have been with Samsung a little over a year now, and I lead the refrigeration and laundry business for S.com as well as the SEO strategy for all of DA. I feel companies can take a page out of Samsung's book with the Applause platform. Colleagues being able to recognize one another gives leadership visibility into who is doing their job, as well as who is going beyond what is expected of them for the team. It's also really encouraging to go on the platform and see a lot of positive comments from my team. I also feel periodic assessments are a great tool as well, because it allows the employee to convey and or illustrate the impact that they have been making throughout the year.
Hello, my name is Simone Sola Arundel. I am Senior Legal Counsel for Samsung Electronics America, based in New Jersey. I support our litigation for consumer electronics, home appliances, and visual displays. How do we rise up through the corporate chain? How do we achieve upward mobility? And I think that's by having allies or ourselves advocate for us. People in positions of power, people with a seat at the table actually advocating for us, both in our presence and outside of our presence. Saying, I know such and such, I know this person who's doing very good work. And I think that advocacy, even if it's just, a small tidbit, goes a really long way. And so once there are people like us, our allies in position of powers, they can reach back down and help us achieve upward mobility rather than, getting up there and pulling the ladder up behind them.
Thank you so much, SEA, for your contribution. Really, really insightful. So we're going to move on a little more. Is there an instance where you, as a Black employee, felt advocated for? Can you explain why that was significant to you? I am going to come over to Cads first.
You know what, this one's a really simple one. So Connor Pierce, he took us out for a meal. I want to know a bit more about us, about our culture, our history, etc. So we went out to a gourmet West Indian restaurant, and it was just really nice that he spent the time. And even after the fact, I was sending like some of the cuisines that we do at home. So I sent him a recipe for curry goat as well. And also there was one or two other things that I sent. I think it was drops, which is like a sweet, it's made out of coconuts and honey and some other stuff as well. But I sent it to him and he went and made his own and we tried and tested. So, that's one of the times I felt advocated for by me as a person and my culture. Now I felt advocated for in terms of my work, and my line managers definitely do that, and they push to get the best version of me out in terms of my content through our delegations and other things in which we do kickoffs on our MPIs. But in terms of personally and culturally, Connor Pierce has definitely been one of the #1 advocates in the business, and from my personal experience over the last 11 years as well.
It's nice when you feel like someone has taken a personal interest in you as a person and as a Black person. It definitely makes a difference. So I completely resonate with that. DT, have you ever had a situation at Samsung where you felt personally advocated for?
Yeah, there was two that sprung to mind for me. One was, it's a not necessarily a negative, but it's something that I really wanted to bring up. Is the reason why we're actually here is because of what happened unfortunately to George Floyd at the time, and similarly to Connor Pierce, he was really great at this. But also my line manager at the time picked up the phone and said, I understand you're in pain, but what can I do to help and support you? And we had various different conversations. There was a lady called Natalie as well, Parempe, who works within the people team. She picked up the phone and had conversations with me around what we can do to help, and they actually stopped what they were doing and said, okay, we understand there are people suffering here, what can I do, let's have a conversation. And I remember coming off phone calls after about an hour or so, we'll speak on the phone and literally just break down in tears, because I thought there was a point where we didn't have any support, and that was the point where we needed support. We got it, which was good, but it was unfortunate that we had the support for that particular incident. So that was one that I wanted to bring up. But the second one to probably end on is I was very fortunate to be asked by and to represent SE UK for the Global Unpack for S23, which I've done a lot of work across the company for many different years. And one of the things I always wanted to aspire to be and to do was actually be on that stage. Kaj, you will definitely know that. For me to say that I've actually made it, and I wanted to be one of only a few black people that have actually represented the brand to do that. So it was a very eye-opening, very wholesome time that I had. I spent 3 days in South Korea. I've been to South Korea many times, to Seoul. We was in the middle of a warehouse in Seoul. We was given time to shoot, and imagine you are the only person that's there that actually speaks English, bar your handler, what they call it. So whenever you do a cut, you have to wait about 30 seconds for somebody to come around to you to then translate what they were saying. And it was such an experience that literally as soon as I finished doing the filming, again, getting emotional here, I kind of broke down, because I was like, well, this is the one thing I really wanted to do. And because of my personal experiences and because of the belief that the LT team have instilled into me and I've hopefully instilled into them, they gave me that opportunity, and I thought I'd never ever get it. And I think that for me has been one of my biggest highlights for working for the brand. But then also the reason why we're here, we can do these things and we can support all of our colleagues. If you're not black professional at all, that's fine, you can still support your colleagues and learn and experience things. And I think they're the two things that really make me feel really proud to work for the company.
Yeah, that was an amazing performance, by the way.
Thank you.
I got to do it myself. S27.
Hopefully. Gotta make it happen.
We've got something to aspire to, guys. Moving over to yourself, Mel. I mean, I'd love to understand what your experience is as a woman and as a black woman. Have you ever felt like you were advocated for, and kind of why was that significant to you?
Yeah, I would say I can think of two instances for this. Again, I'm going to reference my manager, Holly. I would say for her, it's taking an active interest in the fact that she knows that her team are from different walks of life. So there is something that another member of the team made us do. It's basically like an instruction manual, where you get to find out about people's kind of likes, dislikes, ways of working, and then we added another twist or flavour to it where you had to share, and it could be anything down to a podcast that you listen to, or it could be a recipe, and you had to share it as a team. And basically it was for some people it was food, for some people it was podcast, and it was about the team then going off and recreating that and sharing it with the team. And I think for me that's one way of embracing the fact that we all have different cultures, we all have different perspectives, we all have different opinions. And another example I have, and this wasn't within the Samsung workplace, but just as my experience as a black woman, is when I think people have made in the past comments that they don't necessarily feel are maybe loaded from a prejudice or racial perspective, and a manager had actually picked up on a comment that was made, and quickly addressed and resolved the comment that was made by that person. It was an innocent comment they made, but it was something that was, as a black woman, it was offensive. And the fact that it was addressed quite quickly and easily in terms of resolving it, there wasn't an issue, we spoke about it, getting the opportunity to explain, the reason why it was offensive. And I think for me that for me made me feel quite advocated as a woman, that she understood why it was upsetting, why it was kind of hurtful in that instance. And it made me just feel, I suppose, quite valued, and not having to take or have that weight on my shoulders, or feeling that I was working in an environment where that individual didn't care. So I'd say for me that's an example that I've had in my career. Yeah.
It's a unique and quite a brave thing to do for a manager to actually address something there and then, you know. So I can commend whoever that was, because again, it just makes you feel seen.
Yeah.
And that is super important in a corporate workplace, but any workplace.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, guys. Let's go back to our colleagues in SEA to see what they had to say.
And my friends in the UK asked me to talk about a time when I felt advocated for. And there's been a few instances where I felt advocated for, and they all have a common thread. It's typically when I've done, you know, some really good work, worked very hard, and yet that work has gone unrecognized for many different reasons. But someone in a position of power, someone with the seat at the table has actually come and said, you know, Simone did that work. You know, we should give the credit to Simone. You know, Simone did a good job on that.
I am an entrepreneur, and I'm working on a lot of things that I'm passionate about. One of them being my inaugural Juneteenth festival that I threw this year with, in partnership with the city of Jersey City. I let my team know and told my manager, and she went and told the VP, who allowed me to speak to it in our bi-weekly call. I'm not sure if they knew the impact that it had on me, but it was a really great moment for me. And thank you guys for the questions, and happy Black History Month. Bye.
Thanks so much, SCA. I'm going to come back to our colleagues here in the UK. So next question is, how do we think we can enlist more people within the organisation to truly consider Black people for advancement and or promotion? What is currently holding people back?
It's a great question. I think it's understanding the individuals on a deeper level than just being a colleague within your team. I think Mel's raised some really good points around management and effective management, and it's around understanding people at a deeper rooted level in order to get the best out of them. We're not a number. We work in an organisation where collaboration is so important, and so when you are looking at jobs per se or looking at career progression within Samsung, I think it's really important for us to understand if when the person is right, give them that opportunity. There were points within my career where I felt that I was looked over for roles before, and I always wanted to, my ambition is always not look at the role that you want to go to, look at the one that's above that, and actually aspire and work towards that role, and eventually you will get there. And CADs will vouch for this, but I have a saying, and that saying is never chase the money, chase the career. Because if you chase the career in terms of the position you want to be, those sort of things will look after themselves. But in order for you to get there, you need the support from others as well. And that's why teamwork and collaboration is equally important. And you might find that actually the colleagues that you have, the Black colleagues that you have, may not be right, but actually stop and listen and understand them at a deeper rooted level for you to have a better connection with them to get the best possible outcome for them as individuals, but you also as a manager as well. So I think that's really important, to keep supporting them and keep finding out what makes them tick, what makes us tick, because we all have our own differences in the world, and as Black individuals we've had to grow up to learn about our own culture but also others at the same time. Actually, let's open up for those others to also find out about our culture at the same time, because actually we feel that we are part of one family, and that is Samsung. So
that's a really, really good answer. And to your point about opening up, I'll ask both Mel and Cads, is there anything that Black employees should be doing to position themselves for those roles, those advancements? Is there anything that you've seen in your experience that you could probably share with the people watching today?
Go for it. Maybe less.
Thank you. I would say for me, it's networking. I'll be honest, I don't like doing it. I find it a little bit at times uncomfortable and obsequious, but that's the whole point of it. It's to basically get out of your comfort zone and to form those relationships with people. Now, it's not about, essentially like using someone to get the best out of them. It needs to be a two-way thing, right? So it needs to be you taking an active interest in what that person's doing, and then it being mutually, kind of reciprocated in that sense. So I think networking, getting yourself out there to speak to people from different walks of life. I think putting the shoe on the other foot on the onus of the employees, it's also how you network out of your bubble. If you go to the same places, if you talk with the same people, you don't get to experience or see different things. And in the experience I've had in the corporate world, where, you know, I've worked in telco for nearly like 10 years now, it can be at times a bit of an old boys club where, oh yeah, I know someone for that role. And that's how, in some instances, opportunities get overlooked because somebody's already in mind for a certain role. I wouldn't say I've seen it happen at Samsung, and I wouldn't necessarily say it happens as much now, but I do know in certain industries and certain roles it happens. When you get to a certain level as well in your career, you know, it's that old expression, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's so valid and it's so true, because I have friends who have got positions that they haven't even had to have a formal interview for. It's because I know somebody, so it's an informal chat. And I think that, you know, once you get to that level, you've smashed it, right? That's the aspiration, that's the goal of what you want to achieve. But I would say just putting yourself out there and making yourself uncomfortable. Anytime you are doing a role where you feel uncomfortable, you're learning, you're gaining. So I think it's, you know, it's not that it's hard, it's not that it's difficult, it's not that it's challenging. Flip it on its head and try and think of it in that way. And I think just never give up on your dream and your hope. Just because you don't get it the first time round, second time round, or third time round. Think about my GCSE maths there. Just keep trying, because it is attainable and it is possible.
Absolutely.
And before you hand over to Kaz, I wanted to add to that. I think that this is the opportunity for people to have an uncomfortable conversation. So if you don't feel that you can connect in some sort of way, or you don't know, actually have that uncomfortable conversation with that black colleague, because that will then turn into a comfortable and confident conversation when you have that in the long run. So I think it's down to your point around what other people and other managers can do is be brave to have that conversation, because you can learn and educate yourselves on how people are feeling, which will ultimately get the best out of you, because you are now making yourself more diverse in terms of what the things that you have and experiences, but also it makes people feel more confident and comfortable to have a conversation with you around things that they couldn't do before. And actually it's a really hard thing for people to do, but all people managers have the opportunity to do.
Absolutely. So, and I guess we try and stay away from discomfort, but actually the advice here is to lean in. Lean into it. Anything you want to add, Kaz?
I'd probably say my biggest messaging to anyone out there in general is do the basics and do the basics well. With that also being said, it is about branding yourself, how you articulate yourself, the rooms in which you put yourself in, and being open and honest to say anything to anyone, obviously within a professional manner. Branding within an organization is extremely important, and especially also being dependable. So under promise and over deliver. Obviously be warming and inviting and engaging with people, but do the basics and do the basics well. If you're going to do something by a certain time, please try your best to do that and communicate effectively. I think that's probably been my biggest skill. As well. And then lastly is probably the things, there's nothing that's impossible. That's what I would definitely say. I've turned it around and been given challenges within work and pushing the mold. For example, I'll use delegation as an example. SE UK is the very first sub to do pre-recorded delegation. So it looks like a unpacked style delegation. I didn't know how we was going to do it. I knew what the requirement was from my line manager, and let's see if we can get it done. But some way, shape or form, I said, okay, let's do it. And you learn and you make it happen. And you just keep on learning, and it's uncomfortable, but you know what? Nothing's impossible as far as I'm concerned in this world. So that's what I would kind of go with that energy and that belief. Say yes and figure it out. As an example, if we look at Samsung, we built the Burj Khalifa. When they started building it, they didn't know how they was going to finish it. So they took the job regardless and invented how they were going to build it. Whilst they was
they had to build the machines in order to then build
to do it, right? So, and that's kind of, I take that on within my job role. And because of that, from a product management perspective, us in the product management team, we've done some really innovative stuff internally, just because of having that mindset.
Do you remember the mantra, do what you can't?
Do what you can't.
That's right. I'm learning so much on this part. I should have told people to get a pen and paper out, be writing down these nuggets, because I'm absolutely learning so much. Thank you guys for sharing. Okay, on to the point of bringing your true self to work. You know, some of us talked about branding, some of you talked about getting out from your comfort zone. Some colleagues feel, and black colleagues in particular, feel like that they can't bring their true selves to work. What advice would you have for people who are like that? We might have already sort of answered that question, but is there anything additional that you can tell to these people about bringing their true self to work?
Yes, I'll take that off first.
Yeah.
Just do it. So for time and time in my early Samsung career, I didn't feel like I could bring my true self. For example, if I wanted to bring jerk chicken and rice and peas from what I cooked the night before, I didn't think I could bring that in.
Yeah.
I think people may look on me and frown on me like, what's that he's bringing in? And I was worried about the what if, not looking at what's going to happen, and what would happen is I'm going to enjoy my lunch, right? So now I am unapologetically Jamaican. I love being Jamaican. There's massive benefits to being Jamaican. Right, and I'd advocate everyone get a Jamaican friend. But no, I like who I am as a person. So why would I compromise that for anybody else? And it's taken time for me to go into that and feel and own that for myself. But what I've realized is that the fact that I like who I am, it's made me appreciate who everybody else is even more. So it doesn't matter if you're from Eritrea, it doesn't matter if you're from Australia, it doesn't matter if you're from Haiti, it doesn't matter if you're from Pakistan. It's made me appreciate and want to learn more about everyone else's culture. So now I'm uncompromisingly and unapologetically Jamaican in the office. Sometimes I understand that I might speak fast or may use a part of the Jamaican dialect within the office, but then I say, you know what? Also, you have to be respectful that they may not understand if I say Wagwan as an example, right? But then I've got colleagues who ask me questions. I'll quote Jason Smith, one of my colleagues, and he's asked me about like how does it feel to be a black person at work, etc., and what kind of foods do you like and stuff. And you know what? I was able to tell him and have that open conversation and learn a bit more about him, right? About his culture as well. So yes, go and just be who you are. And if no one doesn't like who you are, that's a them problem, not a you. As long as obviously you're professional, you maintain a high level of integrity and your morals are intact.
Yeah. I think echoing that, it's quite ironic. I had a conversation with one of our colleagues about it this morning, and I think that you have to be yourself, because to try and create another persona would be extremely exhausting, because it's having to like mentally think, I've got to behave in that particular way in front of that person, and then I've got to be like in that person. It's just not possible, and you would drive yourself mad. So I think to the point that Kad's just made, you do need to be authentic, but then there's a level of authenticity, and there's a level of just being too casual and too relaxed. We're here to do a job, right? So you have to be professional. There are standards you need to maintain. But I think just bringing your true self to work will allow people to get to understand you, what motivates you, what inspires you, and what will get you to do your job better. It will also promote better collaboration with your team, because you know the people that you work with on a day-to-day basis, you have your work husband, you have your work wife, right? Those people need to be able to understand you and what's going on in your brain. So I think the better rapport that you can have with them, where you're showing up to work as yourself, I think it would just inspire a much more harmonious work environment for you and your team.
Absolutely.
I will say, when you're yourself, it's like a weight comes off your shoulders.
Yes.
Yeah.
And things are just free flowing, and everyone can see it and feed into it really well. And it helps you actually produce the best work possible, right? And they know how to maneuver and manage you in accordance to who you are, because everybody's different, and everybody's special, and everyone's unique, and everyone needs to be identified for their uniqueness. So why not allow that uniqueness and those special skills to flourish?
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting about this question? And I was sitting there listening to you both, and I'm thinking to myself, how can I position this the right way? Because 11 years ago when I first came here, I thought I'm moving into a corporate world, which I had previously, but this is a new culture, a new area here. I need to be a different version of myself. And it took me about 4 months in to say, stop, you need to be you. You're trying to be something that you're not. And actually, going back to everybody's points that you've made, the best version of yourself is yourself, and be the best version of yourself every single day that you can. And I think since then, my motivation changed. I wasn't doing it to fit in. I was just doing it to say, this is a company I really want to work for. I love the brand. I love the fast pace. I love the people that work here. How can I navigate myself to go even further? And actually at that point, because there may be colleagues out there that has that strain that I had when I started in 2012, back in September. And it took me that time to think, let me stop, let me just be myself. And actually that's the best version of myself. And I think since then, it's then enabled me to navigate better. And I'll encourage every single colleague coming into the business or already in the business, be yourself, be unapologetically you. Because that's what we want, and I think we'll always get the best out of you, and I think everybody will appreciate it even more.
Sounds good.
You know what's crazy to think? If everybody embraced that, right, whilst maintaining obviously respect, professionalism, everything else, it will actually make the business grow even more,
Of course.
and amplify even more. Not saying that we're not doing well, we are killing it, and MX, we definitely, all of us here, and obviously compliments to D2C, DA, and TVAV, but we will just flourish even more.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Of course.
No, I completely agree. And I was going to move on to my last question, but I kind of feel like we've almost answered that, so I'll ask it anyway. So my final question is, what's one thing you would advise Black professionals or Black professionals and allies and our network in terms of unlocking and embracing the power of difference? Like I said, I think we kind of already answered that question, but is there anything additional that you would like to add to your points about unlocking the power of difference?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I definitely want to add. And first of all, our Black Professionals Network, we are a leadership team of 14. We have over 60 members in a organisation that has nearly 800 people. So we're sitting around about 8 to 10%. We always want to grow. Our ambition is definitely to grow. But in order for us to grow, we need people that don't necessarily look like us to come and join.
Yep.
And I think that's something that will definitely help us, because it will also help them to have the conversations. In our LT meetings that we have on a weekly basis, we have a lot of banter, which is great, but we also talk about the things that are important to us, that's happen on a daily basis, but also driving things that we want to do going forward. I think this is the start of many things we want to do, and we've seen so many people come into the business and say, right, I really want to be a part of this, which is fantastic. And you don't, like I said, you don't have to be a Black professional to do that. You can be from any walk of life and be a part of what we want to do as an organization, which is ultimately grow. Diversity of thought and creative mindsets enables the business to grow even further. And I think over the last 3 years, we've done so well. I think next year, 2024, is a pivotal year. We know we've got the Olympics coming up as well, right? And you will see all walks of life from all different cultures around the world representing their country. And we're sponsoring that. And that's something to be proud of. And it's been great that us as Black professionals, but also all of our ERGs, can be a part of something that's so brand new and so unique to make us go further even more.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great answer and some great examples there. So thank you, DT. With our last 10 minutes, we're going to open the floor to some questions. Thank you so much for sticking with us this long. As we said, we're going to move right over to our Q&A, our live Q&A. Unfortunately, Kadesh couldn't be with us today, this afternoon. He had prior engagement, but we have both DT and Mel who are more than enough to answer your questions. All right, so we're going to move to our first question. So, who are your Black heroes and why? Mel, start with you.
Sure. So my one is Michelle Obama. I think for me, she embodies and champions just great Black girl magic. She is a mother to two beautiful girls. The way that she has raised her girls, the different causes that she kind of champions and supports as well. I think to me, is just amazing. Her education in terms of what she's achieved, to me, it just embodies everything that I aspire to be, both as a mother and professionally. Yeah.
So we spoke about this earlier as well. I was thinking about, who you inspired role models? And I had two, but I'm going to stick with one to begin with, because I actually got the opportunity to meet this gentleman on Monday, and I see him right, as we went to a football trust awards dinner. and he was being honest for the work that he's done in football, but also outside of football with a charity. And it was the first time I've actually met him. Being a big Arsenal fan, it was just one of those, I was like a little fanboy. Just seeing that the person that I used to watch on TV and go to the games and see, and look how his career has flourished through leaving obviously football, but now going into commentating and stuff. And I think the way he carries himself, what he represents in himself to younger children, but also to people that are around my age, not telling you my age, but people around my age, is great. He's a massive inspiration.
Yeah. No, that must have been an amazing feeling.
Definitely. I was a bit starstruck. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
What I said was lovely to meet you, and we had a little bit of a chinwag on Arsenal's title hopes.
Oh, lovely.
2 Arsenal fans here. We're going to do it. We're going to do it.
I support you. All right. We've got quite a bit of a serious one here. So they have asked advice for navigating microaggressions in the workplace. Does anybody want to give us, for some who don't know what microaggressions are, maybe a brief definition?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, a microaggression is an unintentional or a subtle comment or behaviour towards somebody from a marginalised group. And I would say the challenge of it, as the definition describes, is that it is unintentional. So someone could say something to you that they don't necessarily mean, but for the person on the receiving end, it can be quite either upsetting or just quite annoying. So in terms of how to navigate that, I would say that if you feel comfortable to do so, have that conversation with that person on a one-to-one basis, just kind of pull them to one side and just say, explain what's happened. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, I would say seek out an ally. So that could be another member of the Black Professionals group, if it pertains to that, or it could be your manager or a colleague, and maybe explain to them the situation, and it could be that they then have that conversation with that person for you. Microaggressions that I happen to receive quite frequently for me is my hair. Now, Solange Knowles did make a song, Don't Touch My Hair. Please, don't touch my hair.
True. Yeah. Yes. If you haven't listened to it, I'll probably link it if you can. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, like you said, pull people to the side and just have an informal chat and just say, hey, by the way, this happened. Yeah. Let's try not.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable for it. Yeah. I mean, you don't want that person to feel uncomfortable, and you don't want that, there to be any tension or an issue. So I think, it's just being, this is unfortunately, why it's whatever, and just moving on.
And just on that, I just want to add to it, because I think this is, especially around Don't Touch My Hair, is so important. So my daughter, she's 12 years old. I've got 2 daughters, and she's going through a phase where she's really getting to know her identity. And what she said to me at the beginning of this school year was, I don't need mum to do my hair in braids anymore. I want to wear it out. And she's got big, beautiful curly hair, right? And her hair is so lovely. Every time she goes to school, somebody just sits there and tries to touch her hair. We played the song to her a lot, because we used to play Solange Knowles as that particular album a lot, and it's around Don't Touch My Hair, because we're touching something that's a part of them. And I would definitely recommend people not to do that, but you can have a conversation around what you do for your hair and the type of techniques that you have, and what are the different treatments that you use for your hair to get it to look so beautiful. I think that's a better way that you can handle it, rather than actually saying, oh my God, your hair looks lovely, can I touch it? That's the wrong approach. It is the wrong approach.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Another question here. What aspect of your respective cultures would you like to bring most to the workplace that isn't already a part of the day-to-day? Either of you can answer.
Ooh, that's a great one. I think we're quite blessed, and I kind of said it on the BT earlier, but we're quite blessed that we have a multicultural society and network within networks at Samsung. And I feel that can also be represented in the food that we have as well. So I believe that if we have an opportunity to work quite closely with the catering team to bring in different aspects of food, to have celebrations. It could be national days of a country, like we've had Zimbabwe and Nigeria that happened this week as well. So Nigerian Independence Day, we had Jamaican Independence Day, we've even had St. Paddy's Day as well, and all of these different things. How can we influence that and put that into what we do every single day, coming into the office and experiencing different foods and different cultures. Now we do have something coming up, so if you look out on the newsletter, we do have something coming up very soon which will talk about some of the cultural foods that we are going to be bringing to the office. But I think it shouldn't be just a one time only. We should do this throughout and celebrate the whole entire year.
Absolutely. Agreed. Food is the way to my heart. So yeah, absolutely. Agree. Cool. So I'm gonna move on. How long do we have left? Okay, probably 2 more questions. Have any of you been called intimidating or aggressive? If so, how did you navigate that as a Black man or woman?
Great question. I would say I have, and it's a tricky one. So I know that sometimes I have a bit of a resting bitch face. That's unfortunately, I can't help that. That's just me. Doesn't necessarily mean that I am angry. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm happy. That's just my face. So I think that is, I suppose, one element of it. That sometimes people have a facial expression that looks in that way. I think another side of that is down to how we have been brought up in terms of Black culture. So there are certain behaviours that we do. So for example, we were brought up to, when you're speaking to somebody, to look at somebody in the eye and to, hold their gaze because you're in conversation with them. Some people can find that quite intimidating and will naturally look away. Other things like when you're in a room, speak up, because your voice needs to be heard. Because if you speak quietly, no one's going to hear you, no one's going to advocate for you. So some of those behaviours for some people may come across as intimidating, or as, that person's being a bit boastful, or, kind of a bit of a know-all. And I would say that in that sense, it's not. I would say it's being assertive. It's carrying yourself in a position of authority because you want to be respected. And, it's just, I'd say it's just part of our DNA. In terms of, I'd say, how you can dispel people's opinions of that, I think, take into consideration what I've just said, people's different cultural nuances. And that isn't just limited to the kind of Black professionals or Black communities. Other cultures, have other behaviours or other characteristics that could also be perceived as aggressive. So I think that is something that always needs to be taken into consideration when these conversations have had. And I think if somebody, kind of has an issue with how you've spoken to them, or if you feel someone's spoken to you in a particular way, again, just talk to them. It's just a conversation. And I think a lot of the times, communication can often be misinterpreted. Behaviours can often be misinterpreted. But if you have a conversation, you can quickly dispel and move on.
It's true. I think people also need to remember that, there's being Black, but there's also being a Black woman, and sometimes it can be compounded. So if we almost navigate the world we have to be very careful, like how we, walk. And so just bearing that in mind can sometimes, if you think someone's being aggressive, maybe think twice and just give them the benefit of the doubt, I'd say, because it could be, bias that is bringing that about. Final question. Do you think there is enough upwards communication at Samsung? Our LT could learn so much from the real experiences of the team. I remember Cads was talking about, how kind of pissing them out and had lunch with them and really showed some interest. Is that something that we could be doing more?
I think so. I think we've got so many layers to the LT. We know that they are very busy individuals in all parts of Samsung. I do believe that they can do more to find out from us. We can also do more to share with them. So for me, I would definitely say, representing Black professionals, the door is always open for us to sit down and we can have lunch together in the canteen, which is great. Hopefully on a day that we'll get some cultural food in there, that'll be even better. But yeah, we can have that. I remember that exact occasion that Kadesh was talking about, where Connor took us out for dinner, and he said to me and Kadesh at the time, you choose the restaurant. You don't have to tell us where we go, and just tell me where it is and what time, and I'll be there. And we all got there, and it was a beautiful sit-down meal. And he just spoke to us like, as we are individuals, and we are people that represent the brand. And it was great to have that open and honest conversation with him. And for me, I would definitely encourage the LT and hopefully we've got a few members on the live stream now, but if we haven't, we will obviously have this video on demand so we can watch it back. So my request to the LT was actually let's you get involved in all of the ERGs and see what we're all doing, especially us Black professionals as well, because actually you can find out some of the things that we need support with, which will ultimately support you and grow the business.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's good. Amazing. And sadly, that is all we have time for. Thank you so much for sending your questions through. We really appreciate, we know we've gone over time, we really appreciate you spending the time to sit and watch and send through your questions.
But before we go, we have to shout out a few people,
Yes,
right?
we
Because
do.
to be honest, I don't think this will happen. And first of all, to everybody that is watching on the live stream, like, thank you so much for being a part of this, because actually without you guys, you are the ones that are watching this now, you are the ones that are taking your time to spend it with us, and we can't do anything without you. So thank you very much. All the Black professional leadership team as well, a massive thank you to you. To the editing team, Steph, you all right with me doing this as well? To the editing team, so Antoine, who put the package together, to Lucy, to Ralph, and Connor, who have been the cornerstone to make this happen and put all the set designs together and all the graphics together, is brilliant. But there's one person I need to shout out, and I'm gonna get her to come here. Come here. No, come here. Come on. For those who don't know, Charisse has been working absolutely tirelessly on the Black Professionals project. She's here. And none of this would have happened without Charisse. So massive thank you to Charisse for everything that you've done for us for Black History Month. It's going to be an amazing month, and that month cannot happen without you. So thank you very much.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you so much again to everyone, to Charisse and the whole crew. We look forward to spending more time with you during this Black History Month. As we say, keep a lookout for more bulletins about what we're doing across the month, and we look forward to spending more time with you. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.
Yeah.